Welcome to a special edition of Better World Leaders, introducing what's coming from this podcast in 2021, what is coming next in season 3 of Better World Leaders coming very soon, and a brief exploration through what we've learned about Better World Leaders and Better World Leadership in our journey so far. Welcome to this introductory episode of Better World Leaders, where we are introducing essentially our intention and our focus for 2021. We're going to produce 2 seasons for you, and I would like to share here what the focal topics of those seasons are going to be, some of the guests that are going to be coming up. At least I'll share with you here the first half of the first season's guests. And then also in the latter part of the episode today, a bit of, I think probably fair is to describe it as learning insights. The process that I'm going through is really one of trying to understand the drives, the behaviors, and also the questions that better leaders ask themselves, that they ask the organizations that they lead or they work within, and what they ask of the world. So what are the drives and behaviors of better world leaders, and how do the questions that they ask of themselves and others shape their leadership and the impact that they have in the world? Now, that second part is essentially a summation of a live webinar that I gave on the 4th of March. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we get into that second session. So there's really 2 parts here: an introduction, what lies ahead in 2021, and then a kind of a combination of a revision, a reflection, and me sharing some learning insights that I've gained from the conversations we've had in Better World Leaders so far. So what lies ahead in 2021? Well, as I've said already, we're going to run 2 seasons. Each of those seasons is going to have 10 guests, and then continuing the pattern that we established last year, there'll be intermissions, both in terms of reflecting what we've learned so far, and also continuing to blend in these special edition episodes where we gather together a collection of people to all examine the same question that we pose to them. Now, we might run some of those specials as panels and have the conversations hosted, well, potentially live, but certainly with all of them interacting, or we may continue with what we're doing at the moment and have essentially separate conversations co-joined for production and broadcast, where everybody's examining the same topic. The seasons themselves, we're transitioning our focus from really exploring the broad landscape of what is better world leadership, who are better world leaders and what do they do. And now we're looking more at moving into action-based modalities of change. The 2 seasons that we're going to bring to you this year are going to focus on the bold steps and risks and sort of transformational shifts that most better world leaders seem to have made. And that will be season 3. The overall theme of season 3 we're going to call doing better things, which was really the salient phrase that came out of what is so far our most popular conversation with Lean Gorison. She was if you recall, she is the natural intelligence researcher who joined us in the latter part of season 2, and she is by far and away our most downloaded episode so far. So if you're one of the few that hasn't listened to that so far within the audience group here, do spend some time and get into the conversation with Lean. Her provocation with doing better things is essentially we need to make more radical changes, and to do so quickly. That simply doing things better, continuing our current paradigm and making incremental improvements and shifts, that's not going to move the dial fast enough, and that won't basically be sufficient to create the better world that seemingly so many of us want to move towards. So what we need to do is be more provocative, be more dramatic, be less risk averse, be less constrained by our current thinking and modalities, and really be willing to step over the line, draw outside the circle, and really experiment with both what is novel and what is old, but old perhaps from a systemic perspective, but not old to us. Old, as Lean would say, in terms of nature, old in terms of the overall environment that we're operating within and learning more from unseen, unrecognized forces and influences and bringing more of those into our lives. Season 4 will then progress on and we'll look at how do we sustain change. There's been so many examples in the conversation so far of this powerful combination, a willingness and a recognition of the need to make a leap and make a big shift, but then also having the faculties, the skills, the support networks, the learning modalities to be able to sustain the change. And we're going to examine that duality span across these 2 seasons. First, what do you do? How do you prepare yourself? How do you make the leap? And then what do you do? How do you do it? Who helps you sustain the change? That will be Better World Season. Those will be the seasons in Better World Leaders in 2021. I really hope that you're going to continue to join us on this journey. We've had downloads from over 37 countries at this point in time, which barely a year into this journey is quite phenomenal to me. And I think really strikes at the heart of how broad and how systemic the issues that we address are, and the opportunities that we make people aware of can be applied as well. The one thing I'll consistently ask through this season is, rather than promotion, rather than sponsorship, if we can simply ask each of you as you listen to this now to just think about who you could share this with directly, personally, emotionally, if that's appropriate. And just each episode that you listen to, if we could request of you to just share that one episode with one person that you believe it will be most beneficial and impactful to, that is how we want this to spread and grow, with very close personal connection. I will thank you immensely, and always in advance, but with complete sincere gratitude for any action that you take to broaden this community and deepen the impact that we're going to have. Thank you. And now let's move on to look at some of the guests and a little bit of a sneak peek and a look ahead. So first up, we've got a guy who describes himself as a bit of a smartass. In fact, his business is called Smartass Undies, in actual fact. This guy, Brendan Lowe, is a real rock star, in my opinion. He's a deeply soulful dude, and Smartass Undies is his passion project, his side hustle. But it's a very purposeful and meaningful endeavor to make the world better in a number of ways, through having sustainable underwear that uses repurposed or up-purposed plastics to create high performance clothing, which is very long lasting, and then has these very provocative statements and invitations for reflection imprinted and embossed on them. Now, Brendan is a trainer. He's a lifelong learner, and he works in the sort of the health system in Australia. So everything that he's done is very clever, and he really understands deeply, the psychology of change and how these little nudges, these little stimuli that just lie around us, can really compound over time and build powerful influence and give us mechanisms for positive change. So Brendan and I, not only did we have a great conversation in the podcast, we also instigated a bit of a display on our social media channels. So if you're interested in seeing me and Brendan in our underwear raising funds for a tree planting initiative, you can go to our Instagram accounts, either 4i Leadership or Smartass Undies, SmartassUndies. And you can see, basically us having a bit of a push-up, squat, sit-up challenge. And that is part of something called the PSS Challenge, which is ongoing now in March. So if doing some exercise on a daily basis, raising funds to plant trees sounds like something that you might be interested in, go and check out pschallenge.org and you can get involved with this initiative right now. So following on from Brendan, we've got another entrepreneur, but somebody now on the tech side and specifically in mental health. This is someone who some of you will be familiar with if you've tuned into the last few special editions. It's Ronan McDonald. We're going to go deep into Ronan's journey, his personal story, and his current endeavor, Cred, and the impact that I think magnificent vehicle for change is having in the world already. From there, we're going to shift slightly away from entrepreneurialism and more into two very established paradigms, producing food and indigenous culture, by having a conversation with the guy who essentially runs an indigenous food production business here in Australia. We're then going to step a little bit back into this paradigm of connecting everything that we do organizationally with natural systems, with a conversation that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you with Tamsin Woolley Barker. She is a biomimicry expert. There's going to be a lot of overlap in that conversation with the one with Lean Gorison. And she's a spellbinding person, and the conversation is, and I hope you'll agree with me, quite incredible. So look forward to that. And then last but not least, as we reach the half season mark in season 3, Sandra D'Souza. And Sandra will be talking about diversity and really the power of business to drive diversity very broadly, and what she's doing with a marketplace platform to help more businesses bring more diverse suppliers into the ecosystem of their entities. There's 5 more guests after that, but I'll just hold back on sharing who they are with you for right now, but it will be more of a span of corporate and entrepreneurial, as well as a coaching guest to get us through to the end of season 3. All of them absolutely making their mark in improving our world in one way or the other. 2 of them I was absolutely blown away when they told me that they would be willing to come on the show. So there's a lot of good to come, and I look forward to sharing all of that with you. That's really sort of as much as I wanted to convey just with this brief introduction to what lies ahead. In the next sort of 15-20 minutes, I'll just take you through the sort of the summary of this presentation around understanding better world leaders. So I hope you look forward to that. And if you want to explore it in more detail, the full recording of the webinar is available at the CCA Seed Bank and at the 4i Leadership YouTube channel. So you can check them out there. And I'll include those details in the show notes so you can click through and watch the full detail there if you'd like to. Overall, welcome back and welcome to Better World Leaders Season 3, coming very soon. You'll find audio and video recordings for this episode, as well as links and related resources mentioned today in the podcast area of 4ileadership.com/insights. This is the Better World Leaders podcast, brought to you by 4i Leadership.